Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, have we already seen the last of Giannis in a Bucks jersey? His latest injury has people wondering if the Bucks should pivot and trade him before the trade deadline. Meanwhile, the Raptors are climbing the East standings, and after last night's win against the Thunder, I'll ask if we should take them seriously as a contender. All of that and more coming up on today's Locked On NBA Daily.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However, you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today, we're talking about what Giannis' latest injury means for his future in Milwaukee and the surging Toronto Raptors. We'll also get to our weekend winners and losers. I'm doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have one of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast, senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore.
3 games postponed this weekend, 2 in part due to the weather, and we've also lost Hayes, which is terrible to the weather today. Not like he's not dead, but like the weather has delayed Hayes. Our show is delayed. The storm is wreaking havoc across the country.
It is sunny and blue skies in Miami right now. We just haven't felt anything.
It is 15 degrees and miserable in Colorado, but that's pretty much 6 months of the year for us.
It is weird to watch the news and just see all this stuff and just be like, it feels like it's coming for us at some point. Just everything's delayed here. Let's get to the big news from the weekend other than all those postponed games. And that's that Giannis is going to miss several weeks after re-aggravating a right calf injury in Friday night's loss to the Nuggets. If you didn't think that the Bucks season was already over before that injury, well, you probably do now. The Bucks are 18-26. They're 2.5 games back of the 10th seed in the play-in. That gap is more likely to get bigger now with Giannis out. Over at Locked On Bucks, they're talking about tanking.
He's hurt right now, and if he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, like at this point, now it's time to have the conversation around, is this time for the quiet shutdown of the season, the quiet tank, so to speak, for this Bucks team that the Bucks have a draft pick in this upcoming draft. It is just engaged in the pick swap. So it feels to me we're getting to a point where let's try to get a high draft pick since we actually have one.
Matt, time to tank?
I mean, sure, if you want to. Like the bigger thing here, I just think is I think it's just really difficult. I asked Bucks fans on Twitter, I was like, what do you guys want? You know, and the responses were mixed, but there was a pretty resounding, like, keep Giannis if you can. And I just think it's really hard to let go of him, and I get that. I do. I think you got to get in a room with Giannis and be like, you can tell us that you want to trade. What they're doing right now is they're like, well, he hasn't told us he wants to trade. So, you know, I don't know anything about that. He hasn't told us he wants to trade. So until he demands trade, he doesn't want to trade, which is ridiculous, right? Sit him down and be like, look, man, you have been the best thing to happen to this franchise since Kareem, and probably are the best thing to happen to this franchise ever. You will always have a home here. You will have a statue outside this arena one day. We will not burn bridges with you. We will send you somewhere that you want to go. We understand how you feel about the situation, that you don't want to do it. Do you want us to go ahead and complete a trade for you and give us where you want to go? Do not, we're going to ask that you don't tell anybody else, that you don't leak it. We will try and do right by you as the best that we can. We will not send you somewhere that is not on your list, but don't leak it, because then those teams start to negotiate against us. And I think he would probably agree to that. And if one of those teams is Houston, you call Houston and you say, we will, if this goes to the deadline, you're not going to get him. You have a week. You have a week before before we start the open bidding for this. Alperen Şengün, Reed Shepherd, or Jabari Smith Jr. If you take Kyle Kuzma, 2 first-round picks. We can talk about which ones. That's the offer. You can win a title right now. You got KD and Giannis. You can win a title right now with that. Like, that's what they should do. Because tanking, if it's like, well, what about that? Okay, you're not going to get into this. Well, I mean, I guess theoretically with how the lottery has gone, maybe they tank and they wind up with AJ DeBonsa or Cameron Boozer or Darren Peterson, like one of these guys. And that'd be great, but also I would tell you, hey, look at what's happened to these teams where it's like, we got the number 1 pick. Look at the gods rewarded them. And then it's like, oh, it's Zion. And that didn't go. Nothing is guaranteed. Go ahead and move forward is my bigger thing here.
So if I were to push back, as the Bucks front office might try to push back on this, and I do want to clarify one thing, because we were talking about that pick swap there in that clip, and the Bucks 2026 pick is involved in a swap with the Hawks along with the New Orleans Pelicans. They have the least favorable pick between their pick and the New Orleans pick, so it could still end up helping them to tank, because that Pelicans pick is going to be bad. So if both these picks are bad, then if you tank, you get a good pick either way, regardless of the swap. I do wonder if the Bucks front office could look at this and go the other way and say, tanking actually might help us salvage this Giannis era. Like, could you sit him down in a room, sell him on, hey, we're going to add a lottery pick potentially in what is going to be a loaded draft.
Ooh.
We can either go get a young guy or use that pick to trade for the help that you desperately need this summer. The Bucks are going to have 3 available first-round picks to trade starting the night of the draft, some movable salaries. Kyle Kuzma's contract will be expiring next season. This is more of a devil's advocate argument, Matt, admittedly, but I do we have seen this Bucks front office time and time again. Every time this Giannis thing comes down to whether or not he's going to sign that extension, make some sort of Hail Mary move. This could be the latest Hail Mary, and saying like, we're actually, the new Hail Mary is just be bad as possible and add in one way, shape, or form, whether it's a rookie or using this lottery pick to go trade for another star type player, add talent that way.
Wes, how old are you?
I am 34.
Okay, so you're 34. Let's say that you traded David Ramil for, I'm not going to insert the reporter, but a terrible, awful reporter with horrible, horrible takes. Not me, but I have a name, but I'm not going to list it. Let's say you did that, and you, okay, that's not working. We're going to have to try and rebuild here. That's the Middleton for Kuzma trade. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to work with an 18-year-old, Wes, on your show? Do you want to podcast 5 days a week, every day, making them everybody your first listen with an 18-year-old? No, not necessarily. No. And that's the thing here. As much as it's like younger teams have won lately, Pacers and Thunder being these teams, and Celtics being not young, but like they were in their definite prime. If you're of Giannis' stature, you are not swayed by, you get to play with an 18-year-old who doesn't know what he's doing. That's not convincing.
And that's why you would have to say, well, we'll probably, if we get one of these picks in a loaded draft, we'll trade it for a superstar player. But if you're the Bucks, that's malpractice again too, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other thing here is the problem with that is Giannis is going to be like, well, maybe I'll commit if you can get somebody good. But if you go to these other teams and you try and get a superstar, and you're like, we'll trade you this number 1 pick, the team's going to be interested, but that superstar is going to be like, whoa. I don't know if Giannis is going to be there. I'm not going. No, under no circumstances. And if you trade for a guy and he doesn't want to be there because that guy doesn't trust Giannis, what do? So it's like, there's no way that this works. The whole, the trust factor breaks down. There's no way that this works out. If you land the number 1 pick and I'm trying to think of what, you're going to trade him to Philly for Joel Embiid and hope that Joel keeps Giannis?
And that's, come on. If you're Milwaukee, malpractice. The other part about this that's worth exploring here, because according to Mark Stein, several teams are still calling the Bucks about trading for Giannis before the deadline, despite the injury. This is the re-aggravation of a right calf injury. We know that the calf injuries are not good news right now. I guess just broadly speaking, Matt, should this injury make teams think a little bit harder about trading for Giannis? He's 31 years old. He now has a pretty established injury history. He's not finishing seasons very much anymore. I still think, hey, it's Giannis. If you're one of these teams, like you mentioned, the Houston Rockets, if you're one of these teams that are ready to go for it, it's Giannis. But I do wonder if these teams should maybe think a little bit harder now that he's hurt again.
A good site called #basketball has built a database that actually you can look up injuries and just be able to pull up exactly how long these things last. Calf injury, there's been 14 in the database, just a calf injury. 8 days is the average game missed. Let's do strains, right? Strain calf. Let's go to that one. If you go there, the average days missed is 13. Right calf, it's 15. So you're talking about 2 weeks. It's just not the end of the world. These calves it's not good. And you have to be careful because what can wind up happening, especially if it's in the soleus where Giannis is having, is you risk the Achilles. So you just got to wait. It's got to be, you have to give it an extra couple of weeks. That's fine. But on top of this, I go, look, Giannis, knock on wood, has not had a major surgery. I had this discussion last night with a colleague about Aaron Gordon, where I was talking about how I was like, look, I get that Aaron keeps having these lower body injuries, but Aaron's never had a major surgery. If you have a major surgery, I think you got to be worried about the long-term injury concerns. But if you haven't had surgery and that's not the part that keeps bothering you, then I don't see any sort of reason to be overly concerned. Guys are going to get hurt, but you'd still rather have Giannis for how many games you're going to have than anybody else.
Giannis is talking about 4 to 6 weeks. There was another report this morning that, the Bucks are probably expecting 4 to 6 weeks. So like you said, with that Solius probably wait another couple weeks. That's why you end up in that mark. But to your point, and it's a good one, Matt, no surgery here. I still think, again, it's Giannis. If you can go get him, you get him. There's a select few guys in the league that are like this. Giannis is definitely one of them. We've talked a lot about which teams could come out of the Eastern Conference, but we may have been overlooking a certain team north of the border this entire time. We'll talk about the Raptors, who got a big win over the Thunder on Sunday night after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting, from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. We are Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's talk about the Raptors, Matt, who beat the Thunder in a close game on Sunday. They've now won 4 games in a row. They're just a half game back to the Celtics for second place in the Eastern Conference. Right now, they're winning with defense, including in last night's win over the Thunder, where they held SGA to just 3 points in a tight game in the fourth quarter. Here's more from the Locked On Raptors postcast.
I think it had to do with the attention to detail. Like I said, sending 2 to Shea not only forces the Raptors to be in scramble situations, but now because they're rotating at a high level, they're able to get these contests onto these shooters and force other guys to be the guy tonight outside of SGA. And I think the Raptors did a great job of closing quarters, but also closing the game because they were able to make that second effort.
So, Matt, not new for the Raptors. They're 4th in defensive rating this season. This is a good defense. We talk a lot about the teams that could realistically come out of the Eastern Conference. We rarely mention the Raptors. Have we been overlooking them as a contender?
I'm very mad that you did this when Hayes is not here, so I can't victory lap over how crazy he thought I was for saying the Raptors were going to be great defensively. I did say they were going to be number 1. They're not going to be number 1 because they're 6 points off the Thunder, because that's insane. But like they're, look, this team has a real formula. My problem is like there's kind of 2 different teams here. There's like the offensive team with Ingram and Quickly, and then there's the defensive team with Shed and, to a degree, not really Barrett, but Barnes in particular. If you have not, if you missed this game last night because you were watching football, go look up Scottie Barnes' block on Chet Holmgren late in this game. And I was informed afterwards, it's like he leads the league in clutch blocks. So go back and watch all the clutch blocks from Scottie Barnes this season. That guy's all defense. Like, let's just go ahead and get this done right now. He's got to be all defense. Scottie's been absolutely insane. And
they're arguing defensive player of the year over at Locked On Raptors right now.
And that's not gonna happen. And I love seeing him in this role where he doesn't have to be the primary initiator and offensive guy. And it's like, oh, so this really works? Well, no, because listen, primary offensive guy still Brandon Ingram. That's the problem. It's like, the team's gonna have a really good record. I think they're gonna wind up with like a top 4 to 5. They're probably gonna be in the 4 or 5 is probably what I would imagine them winding up in. And I wouldn't be surprised if they knocked off a good team in the first round. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, let's say the Cavs get their stuff together and they wind up in the 4 or 5. Like, I would be surprised if the Raptors beat the Cavs and then the Cavs have to make broad changes. That wouldn't shock me. The problem is just like at some point it's gonna be, hey, your best player and not best player, your best offensive player, the player that has the most usage is Brandon Ingram, and the others is Tyrese Maxey or Donovan Mitchell or Jaylen Brown or yada yada, Cade Cunningham, obviously Jalen Brunson, and then they're going to lose. I think this team is really fun. I think they're awesome. I love RJ Barrett. I just love his game. And I think that people will continue to sleep on them. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at the deadline. They are shopping for, they're in the Sabonis talks, but from what I hear, they're more likely to target a guy that they want a big making around $8 million. And so there's a number of guys that they might go after. Kevon Looney is an option. Yves Missi is an option. Both of those are in New Orleans. They're likely and they've already done business, obviously, with New Orleans, so that makes sense. So they're going to add a big. I don't know how much that helps, right? Adding Sabonis, and I would be like, okay, now I'm interested. But I love this team's defensive identity. They're a lot of fun. I don't want to just like dismiss them. It's just they're not ready for the playoffs yet. And they probably won't be ready for it to be a playoff contender until they have a different number one option outside of Ingram.
Yeah, I want to put a pin in the trade deadline talk, but I do think it's worth exploring that. But I love this team, man. They're moving up the league pass rankings for me. Defensively, I already mentioned they're 4th in defensive rating this season. For over the last 15 games, they're 5th in defensive ratings. They're still top 5. They're 15th in offensive rating. They're not great offensively, to your point, Matt, but they're better than I thought a lot of people expected, given the fit issues that we've talked about. But this team is flooded with talent. I mean, there's a lot. It doesn't always fit together, but there's just a lot of talented players. Not only Brandon Ingram, but Emmanuel Quickly was making big buckets late in last night's game. We already mentioned Scottie Barnes. But even coming off the bench, I know you're a big Jamal Shed fan. So am I.
Yes.
He was awesome in that game against the Thunder. Can we talk about Jacoby Walter? Who's been an awesome... Offensively, it's a little hit or miss for him. He's kind of streaky as a shooter. But defensively, locking up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, not only just like denying him the ball, top locking him over and over again. In last night's game, sending 2 to the ball, but Jacoby Walter being the main guy there to force the ball out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's hands. Shai had one field goal attempt in the fourth quarter in crunch time. He got to the free throw line a couple other times, but one real field goal attempt. That's amazing to me. And this Raptors team, they're not good enough offensively to be, I think, considered real contenders in the Eastern Conference, but they are good defensively. They're good enough defensively. They're second in the league in assist to turnover ratio behind only the Denver Nuggets. They force a ton of turnovers. We've talked a lot about how they press. They're one of the teams that press the most in the NBA. Like, they just don't beat themselves. And I think they deserve a ton of credit for that. They've talent. They don't beat themselves, and they're going to win a lot of games that way. But if we're talking about trade deadline stuff and what could take them over the top, it's something offensively that is better than Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram's been fine for them. I think it's okay. But you're going to need a top guy that's better than that, and that's hard to get.
Well, another thing I kind of think is I think they need probably a better engine. I think Ingram has evolved into a pretty good passer. Like he's above average in assist percentage, and if you kind of watch him, he makes some really good reads from time to time. He's one of those guys. He's a little bit like Book as a playmaker, where it's like, for a scorer, he's a really good passer. But what they kind of need is they need like a 1A passer and scorer. They need somebody of that level, and that's the challenge I think in the NBA constantly. Raptors fans would tell you, and they're not wrong, that if it's like, look, you can't really be talking about Domantas Sabonis, you can't be talking about a different engine. Like, we just need shooters, and they're not wrong, because this again gets back into that 2 teams concept I was telling you. Like, when you go down and you look at their guys, like, who are their best defenders? Scottie Barnes, what's he shooting? 31% from 3. Jamal Shed, what's he shooting? 33% from 3.
The problem with the shooters argument is
I love Agbaji so much, 19% from 3. Like, it just their best defenders can't shoot, and their best shooters can't defend.
Right. And their best players are a little bit of both things. And if you're talking about, okay, let's go get a shooter, right? Like, let's just, I don't know, throw out a shooter. Throw out Luke Kennard or something. I don't know.
Right. Kennard's good. Yep,
yeah. Good. Like, who's he playing over? You're not playing him over Quickly. You're not playing him over Barrett. You're not playing him. You might not be playing him over Agbaji in certain matchups. Like,
I mean, I think kind of the answer there is like, again, this kind of gets back to what I've been talking about a little bit, which is how Steph Curry destroyed the NBA. Is that, like, what do they want to move right now? They want to move quickly. So, okay, you're going to move a point guard. Are you going to need a point guard back? Yeah. All right, what does your point guard need to do? Defend and hit threes. You need like a solid, can set the floor, defend, and hit threes guy. It's Fred VanVleet, right? And back in the day, it was Chris Paul. Like, you need that level of guy is what you're kind of looking for, is a point guard that like doesn't need the ball, but can do stuff when he has the ball, can space the floor, and is a plus defensively. And like, those guys don't exist. Like, they just don't exist because Steph Curry killed everything. So like, you just need to kind of, this is where I think the challenge is. And it's one of the reasons, not to like kind of ping pong here, but it's one of the reasons why the Spurs build is actually pretty smart, because all of those guys are that. Like, they're not amazing shooters, but they all can score and they all can defend. And that's kind of the combo here, is like the Spurs are trying to get away with it with less shooting. By the way, we should just shout out Mamu, who continues to just be a plus minus god. Just no matter where that guy goes, you're going to win the minutes with Mamu. It's Mamu and Goga as the best ones. Oh, I should say that I have heard that the Raptors have shown interest in Goga Bitadze, which I think is like a really fascinating kind of combo that gives them a different dynamic in terms of spacing the floor, as with a backup big around those kind of guys. But I also don't know what Jakob Poeltl can give them long term.
That Jakob Poeltl contract is also kind of a problem contract for them. I mean,
no, surely not. The contract that when they signed it, everybody was like, "What are you doing?"
Right. It'll be interesting to see what they do. They are finally kind of figuring out the right balance of the thing that Masai Ujiri was trying to do for a long time, which is a lot of length. We're going to flood the floor with length.
Yeah.
At one point, it was like all offensive length, no defense, and then it was all defensive length, no offense. Now they've found an interesting middle ground here. They certainly trend defensively, but there's enough there where I think they're interesting. This is a team to me that could make a surprise, quote unquote, surprise run to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're not a team that could win the championship, but who knows? Like, you're in the Eastern Conference Finals,
so
something happens, maybe you end up in the finals. I don't know, but
do you feel like they can beat Boston? This is the real Goldberg test. Okay.
Yeah, I think they could beat. I think they could beat anybody in the East outside of Detroit, probably.
I mean, look, if you're talking about Detroit, so yeah, that's funny because I would say they can't beat the other teams, and they could probably beat Detroit. Like if they're in the one, let's say that they get past the first round and they're in the 1-4 versus Detroit. What's Detroit's model? Oh, we're big and we're going to play defense and our offense isn't great. Raptors are like, cool, no problem. Like that's exactly how the Raptors want to play. And it becomes a tough shot making competition. And I'm not sure that the Pistons are better than the Raptors in that instance. That actually, I think, is a pretty good matchup for them.
No, you're right. The way I was thinking about it is like the Pistons are just a better version of the Raptors. So if we're going to play that game, well, we've already proven we're better at that game. But to your point, like in a playoff series, if Jacoby Walter just gets hot from 3-point range in a couple of games, that could swing something.
Versus like Boston, the problem is just going to be like, hey, Jakob Poeltl has 30 rebounds. Cool. The Celtics shot 1,000,000 threes.
Right. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Weekend winners and losers next here on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become a go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pulling up the Game Time app, picking an upcoming NBA game, and I had tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout. I know exactly what I'm going to pay right from the start. And being able to see the view from your seat before you buy makes the decision easy. Zone deals stand out. Choose the section. Game Time picks the seats. You save money. Great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. And everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. So check out Locked On Bucks and Locked On Raptors for more on today's top stories. It's Monday, Matt, which means we're going to end the show with our weekend winners and losers. What do you got?
The Los Angeles Clippers. I can't believe this turnaround, man. We all left them for dead. Dead! If you missed it over the weekend, there is a noted Clippers fan. You can find him on Twitter at the Rich Homie Flom, who said that if they go 15 earlier in the season, said if they go 15-3 at any point in the season, he will print this tweet and eat it. Well, on Sunday, in winning their game, they came back and won, and now, guess what? They are 15-3 in their last 18. This is one of the best teams in the league since December 20th when they beat the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers being the team that they turned it around on is not something that fails to amuse me. I don't know where this goes. I don't know how to trust the Clippers. I don't know what this run looks like. I do know that teams that go on these kind of runs can sustain it for a while and usually lose steam. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just like the rest of the season. That was like, they don't usually win the title because you're too far behind. But, I don't know where this goes. But it is really interesting to see a team that everyone kind of expected to be good after last year. It just feels like every time that we think the Clippers are good, they're bad. And every time we think that they're bad, they're actually good. I don't know how to parse that, but I think they have to be the winner of the weekend with where they've gotten to.
Yeah, they're 4th in offensive rating, 6th in defensive rating over the last 15 games. They've been awesome. It's not a coincidence that with Kawhi back and playing great, the Clippers are back playing great. They always had too much talent to be as bad as they were to start the year. We all knew that. We talked about it on this show. I won't trust them. I won't trust the Clippers. Like, congrats. You're having your annual December to January surge where you look like a contender, and I know how this is going to end. With Kawhi in street clothes on the bench, whether it's at the end of the season or in a playoff series, I will not trust the Clippers. I won't trust the Clippers until they're actually raising a trophy. They could be a second away in Game 7 of the Finals, up 20, and I'm going to say, nope, something bad's going to happen. But
yep.
I mean, it's a nice stretch for them. So they're winners right now, I suppose, at least for the weekend. My winner is Zion Williamson. He had a blow-by dunk on Victor Wembanyama in that game on Sunday. Had a putback dunk in that game against the Spurs. He's quietly playing really well for the Pelicans lately. He's averaging 23 and 6 on almost 63% shooting over his last 20 games. And by the way, has not missed a game since December 11th. He's playing really well, and nobody really cares because the Pelicans are basically out of it, but he's starting. He's figuring it out against alongside Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears in a way that, like, you know, Jordan Poole went to the bench, right? Like, Zion Williamson is figuring out kind of a new role with New Orleans, and I don't know if it's a showcase, Matt. I still don't really know where Zion stands in the Pelicans' future, but if he's playing like this, he's helpful.
I don't know really what to make of anything with the Pelicans. I just don't know what to do with like any of it, you know? I think it's actually, to me, that game is a little bit more indicative of, hey, you know, we all were the Spurs beat the Thunder twice and we were all losing our minds over it. And I think rightfully so. It's just really interesting that it's like the Spurs definitely have like a little edge on the Thunder. Like they have a little bit of an edge there. And I think they have a little edge on some of the best teams in the West. I think they actually match up really well with Denver. But like this is still a young team and they're going to be inconsistent and they still have a lot of holes on that roster. So the Spurs, I think, are, even though all the numbers kind of say that they're one of those top teams, I'm a little skeptical. I think of where San Antonio's at. Zion's an interesting question of just like who's going to take a risk on him at the deadline. Will the Pelicans actually move it? I don't know. Like the Pelicans are such a mess in terms of trying to figure out what they're going to do. They just seem to be completely delusional about what situation they're in. Like they do tend to act in the trade market from people I've talked to, like they're right there. They're just going to turn the corner and be right. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like you were such a mess.
Now would be the time to trade Zion though, right? Like
yeah.
You got Giannis hurt, Ja's hurt. Like that's the guy that maybe you can move right now while he's playing well.
This is always the problem that I think executives run into, and it makes me insane, is a guy's bad. A star is struggling. Okay, can't trade him right now. His value is at the lowest. This is like we're going to be trading him for pennies on the dollar. Guy plays better, value is high. Can't trade him now. Look at how he's playing. Maybe we can turn this around. And you're just like, okay, if you're not going to trade him when he's bad and you're not going to trade him when he's good, you want to trade him when he's mid? And like that's very rare. It's just not. There's never a good situation. This kills me, and I feel like my biggest problem with the Pelicans. And I know that they're winners. I'm not trying to like hurt them here on a praise. That was a good win versus the Spurs, but I'm also just like they're wasting guys' careers. Zion, Herb, and Trey. They're wasting those guys' career. You have a young core of Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. Commit to it. Trade everybody else. Come on. Like, do the thing right. Do the thing that as you should be.
And keep Messi, by the way. Why are they trying to trade that guy? He's awesome. What?
Derek Queen. He's the future.
Keep both of them. What's the problem?
I mean,
good teams have good centers now. Do you have a loser?
Yeah, I have a couple of losers. I think loser number one is actually gonna be the Thunder, who miss out on the opportunity to become the greatest team of all time. Just like, hey, they don't care about it. It was, it's a hard bar. It shows you how tough it is to do that. Yep. But they lost their 10th game, so they cannot finish ahead of the 2016 Golden State Warriors. So they will not finish with the best record in NBA history. Nice. They'll take the title over that for sure, and I get that, but that one's one. The Orlando Magic, who lose 105-119 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and like a lot is hinging on this number that's been passed around. Well, they're plus 15 when Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner and Paolo and Suggs. Who's the other? And Bane play together. Okay, cool. But the problem is you can't play that lineup for 48 minutes. And we did this. We've done this before. I did this once where I was like, look at the Warriors. It was 100 minutes played. They have the best starting lineup. Blah, 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 blah. Look at this lineup. You have to handle the other lineups. Like the other lineups can't be garbage. And that's the problem with the Magic. So the Magic are my losers of the weekend.
My loser of the weekend is the AFC East, with the Patriots returning to the Super Bowl. We missed our chance. We had a window where the Patriots weren't dominating the AFC East.
This
We
entire
screwed it up.
this
The
entire
dumb
playoff.
Buffalo Bills, the dumb Miami Dolphins, and the always dumb New York Jets. We missed it.
This entire playoffs is fake. These are just fake NFL playoffs. These are cheap. I said they're cheap. They're Dr. Thunder playoffs. That's what we have right now.
I don't understand how the ratings are like through the roof on all this stuff. I mean, this is like the worst NFL season I can remember.
Because
And you can't come at me because I'm a suffering Dolphins fan, because the Dolphins have been garbage for 30 years, and I've enjoyed other NFL seasons more.
NBA season's pretty great. Looking forward to the playoffs.
And that's why we cover the NBA. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks to Matt for his expertise every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.